Most people believe they've already missed their chance. They think XRP's best days are behind it, that the window for life-changing opportunity has closed. But what if I told you that owning just 2,200 XRP could still put you ahead of 99% of the world? What if I told you that this small bag might be one of the most powerful positions you could ever hold in the next global financial system? Welcome back to Crypto Equation, where we uncover the truth about digital finance and why those who understand timing, not just quantity, are the ones who win. Because the truth is, the window is still open, but it's closing fast. Most people underestimate what 2,200 XRP represents. They think it's too small to matter, but history proves that small positions in transformative technologies often become life-changing when the world finally catches up. Think back to Bitcoin. There were people who owned just a few hundred coins when it was under $1. Today, that same holding is worth millions. The same story played out with early internet companies like Amazon, Apple, and Google. The early believers didn't need massive amounts. They just needed conviction before everyone else. That's where XRP is right now. The number 2,200 may seem small, but in the coming years, it could represent a share in the digital plumbing of the world's new financial system. XRP isn't about speculation anymore. It's about infrastructure. It's about being the bridge between old and new money, between banks and blockchains, between nations and innovation. The people who realize this today will be the ones others call lucky later. But it won't be luck. It will be preparation. Ripple's partnerships with banks, payment providers, and governments are expanding quietly but powerfully. These aren't headlines for hype. They're groundwork for a financial network that's being built in real time. And when that system fully activates, the supply of XRP available to the public will be tiny compared to the demand required to move trillions of dollars every day. That's where the math gets interesting. Out of 100 billion XRP tokens, a large portion is locked in escrow, and much of the remaining supply is held by institutions or long-term investors. The liquid supply available to retail holders like you is limited. Now imagine what happens when global institutions need XRP to provide liquidity across borders. They won't be buying small amounts. They'll be absorbing massive quantities, and that will naturally push the price higher. It's simple economics. Limited supply plus massive demand equals inevitable revaluation. The people holding 2,200 XRP today won't need to chase hype. They'll simply need to wait for the system to catch up. The world is already preparing for the next phase of finance. Central banks are experimenting with digital currencies. The International Monetary Fund and the Bank for International Settlements are discussing interoperability frameworks for cross-border payments. Every part of the traditional system is moving toward the same problem: how to make money move instantly, globally, and securely. And that's exactly what XRP does. It's fast, it's scalable, and it's neutral. It doesn't belong to any one government or corporation. That neutrality is its greatest strength. It makes XRP the perfect bridge asset for a world that needs connection, not competition. Most investors don't see this because they're focused on price instead of progress. They refresh charts every day, waiting for movement, not realizing the movement that matters is happening behind the scenes. While they're watching price action, Ripple is signing partnerships with major financial institutions. Governments are drafting regulatory clarity. The foundation is being built quietly because that's how real change always happens. The internet didn't announce its arrival with fanfare. It appeared gradually, then suddenly changed everything. XRP will follow the same pattern. It will be silent until it's everywhere. You might be wondering why 2,200 XRP matters specifically. The answer is simple. It's achievable for most people today, but in a few years it might not be. The average investor spends more on coffee or streaming subscriptions each year than it would cost to buy 2,200 XRP right now. Yet those same people will look back one day and realize they could have owned a piece of global financial infrastructure for less than they spent on convenience. That's why this window matters. It's not just about potential profit. It's about positioning yourself before the system shifts. XRP's use case is undeniable. It can settle cross-border payments in seconds compared to the days it takes through SWIFT. It costs fractions of a penny per transaction compared to traditional fees that eat up billions annually. And it provides liquidity instantly where banks need it most. These aren't theories. These are facts proven in real-world tests with banks and payment corridors. When adoption reaches full scale, XRP's price won't reflect speculation. It will reflect global utility. And by then, the people who doubted it will realize the truth too late. That's why the window is closing. Every month, more institutions are testing Ripple's technology. Every year, more countries move toward digital currency integration. The transformation is accelerating. What makes this even more significant is the psychological barrier. Most people think they need thousands or even tens of thousands of XRP to make a difference. But wealth in the new era won't be about holding massive quantities. It will be about owning scarce assets that systems depend on. If you own something that powers a global network, even a small portion becomes priceless when demand outpaces supply. That's what makes 2,200 XRP powerful. It's not about greed, it's about foresight. People forget how fast financial revolutions happen once they begin. The transition to digital payments didn't take decades. It took years. The shift from cash to cards to mobile wallets was almost invisible until it was everywhere. The same will happen with digital settlement systems. One day banks will announce they've switched to RippleNet, and the world will realize XRP isn't an experiment, it's the foundation. And by that time, the market will have already adjusted its price accordingly. The question is whether you will be in position when that day comes. The truth about owning 2,200 XRP is that it's not about waiting for a miracle. It's about understanding the mission. XRP was built to handle real-world volume and real-world problems. It doesn't rely on hype cycles or speculation. It relies on necessity. And necessity is the most powerful driver of value in history. The moment the world realizes it needs XRP more than it doubts it is the moment the window will slam shut. By then, you won't be able to buy cheap tokens because they'll be priced by global systems, not retail emotions. That's why holding 2,200 XRP is more than an investment. It's a statement of belief in where the world is heading. It's saying you understand what's happening before everyone else does. And those who understand early always reap the biggest rewards. Not because they're lucky, but because they're prepared. Most people will spend years trying to time the market, not realizing that timing the market is about understanding cycles, not guessing prices. The current cycle is accumulation. The next cycle is revaluation. When it happens, it won't matter if you own 2,200 or 22,000. What will matter is that you own enough before it begins. The financial world is evolving faster than most people can comprehend. Tokenization of assets, AI-driven finance, and real-time settlement are no longer futuristic concepts. They're happening now, and XRP sits right at the center of this digital revolution. It bridges systems that couldn't talk to each other before. That's not just innovation, that's transformation. Every major financial institution that adopts Ripple's network brings us closer to a new standard. And when that standard becomes normal, the value of the bridge asset at its core will multiply accordingly. Owning 2,200 XRP right now is like owning shares in the Internet of Value before it went mainstream. It's like owning digital real estate before cities were built. The people who understand that concept today will be the ones writing their success stories tomorrow. The hardest part is holding conviction when everyone else is uncertain. But that's exactly what separates visionaries from spectators. You can't expect life-changing results by following the crowd. You achieve them by believing in something real before the world gives you permission. The closer we get to mass adoption, the quieter the opportunity becomes. Most people are distracted by short-term noise, by daily charts and temporary headlines, while the real shift is happening right underneath them. The truth about owning 2,200 XRP is that you are not just buying a digital asset, you are buying time. You are buying positioning in a system that is being rebuilt from the inside out. Because when banks, governments, and payment networks finally activate on-demand liquidity at scale, it will be too late for retail investors to accumulate at these prices. The price you see today will feel impossible tomorrow. That's how every financial revolution plays out. It feels slow until it becomes instant. The moment it happens, it's over. Every investor faces the same emotional battle. When prices are low, fear takes over. When prices rise, greed replaces logic. The people who win are the ones who manage both emotions. They understand that conviction must come before confirmation. They don't wait for media coverage or mass approval, because by the time the crowd believes, the market has already moved. If you are holding 2,200 XRP right now, you are already ahead of the majority, because you are acting before recognition. You see the potential before the price reflects it. That's what separates pioneers from participants. Look at history. When the internet was still in its infancy, most people laughed at the idea of digital commerce. They couldn't imagine a world where companies like Amazon or Google would become the backbone of daily life. But the few who understood it didn't need to convince anyone. They just needed to hold on long enough for the world to catch up. That is the same phase XRP is in today. The skeptics mock it. The institutions study it. And the believers quietly accumulate it. The window for disbelief is closing, because progress doesn't wait for public opinion. It moves according to necessity. The global monetary system is under stress. Inflation, debt, and currency devaluation are symptoms of a system that can't scale anymore. The old infrastructure was never designed for real-time finance. It's slow, it's expensive, and it's fragile. Governments know it, banks know it, corporations know it. And now they are looking for solutions. Ripple has already positioned XRP as the answer to those problems. It's faster than SWIFT, cheaper than traditional settlement, and interoperable across any currency or network. It's not a theory anymore. It's a functioning system being refined for mass use. Every test, every pilot, and every adoption brings us closer to the tipping point. When that tipping point arrives, XRP will not move gradually, it will reprice overnight. Because liquidity is not something that can be scaled slowly, it must exist instantly. The moment global payment volume flows through XRP, the supply will be absorbed at record speed. The average investor won't even have time to react. They will watch from the sidelines asking how it happened so fast. But those holding 2,200 XRP won't need to ask. They will already know because they prepared during the silence. The human brain is not wired for exponential growth. We think in straight lines, but technology evolves in curves. It starts slowly, then suddenly accelerates beyond comprehension. That's why so many people miss generational opportunities. They underestimate the compounding power of adoption. One bank uses it, then 5, then 50, then 500. Each new participant multiplies utility because they connect networks of users and transactions. That's how exponential systems grow. And XRP is built to scale with that curve. Once it becomes the standard bridge asset, the entire global financial system will depend on it. The beauty of XRP is that it doesn't need to replace anything. It enhances everything. It makes existing systems faster, cheaper, and more secure. That's why its adoption is inevitable. Governments and banks aren't choosing between XRP and their own currencies. They're choosing between efficiency and inefficiency. They will always choose efficiency in the end. When they do, the demand for XRP will surge not because of hype, but because of necessity. That's when the world will realize why this small digital asset is so important. It solves a $1 trillion problem with a few lines of code. People often say timing is everything. That's true in investing, but it's also true in history. Right now, you are living through the digitization of money itself. This is the biggest financial transformation in modern history, and most people are completely unaware. They will wake up one day and see the news about digital currencies, central bank integration, and real-time settlement, and they will ask, when did this happen? But you will know. You'll remember the years of silence, the doubt, the volatility, and you'll realize that owning 2,200 XRP wasn't just an investment. It was a decision to see what others couldn't. The hardest part of this journey is patience. Holding through uncertainty is never easy. But every dip, every delay, and every lawsuit has been part of the process. Each one tested conviction and eliminated the weak hands. What remains now are the believers who understand what XRP really represents. This is no longer about if it will succeed, it's about when. And the when is getting closer every single day. Every new partnership announcement, every corridor expansion, every regulation passed is another signal that the system is aligning. The window is still open, but it's narrowing fast. This is where perspective matters. People obsess over short-term prices, but ignore long-term potential. They forget that value follows function. When XRP's function becomes essential, its value will follow automatically. You don't have to predict exact numbers. You just have to understand direction. The direction is clear. The world is moving toward real-time settlement, interoperability, and digital liquidity. XRP is designed for exactly that. Once it becomes embedded in the system, the price won't reflect speculation, it will reflect necessity. The moment that happens, 2,200 XRP will no longer feel small. It will feel significant because the world will suddenly realize that true wealth was built quietly, not through hype, but through foresight. You will see people trying to rush in when it's already too late. They will buy high because they couldn't buy with conviction, but you will already be there because you understood the assignment. You didn't follow the noise, you followed the signal. The truth about owning 2,200 XRP is that it's not about becoming rich overnight. It's about securing your place in the new economy before it becomes mainstream. It's about understanding that this asset is part of a bigger movement that will redefine global finance. You are not just an investor, you are an early participant in a transformation that future generations will read about. The banks will adapt, the governments will comply, the technology will scale, and those who held through the doubt will stand at the finish line not surprised, but validated. So when you hear people say XRP is too slow, too risky, or too uncertain, remember, they said the same thing about every innovation before it succeeded. They said the internet would never work. They said electric cars would fail. They said Bitcoin was a fad. They were wrong every time because progress doesn't ask for permission. It happens because it must. And that's what's happening right now. The shift to digital value is unstoppable. The only question left is who will still be holding when the world finally understands what XRP was built for. Your 2,200 XRP may not seem like much today, but one day you'll look back and realize it was everything. It was your ticket to financial freedom, your proof that you saw the future before it arrived. The window is closing faster than most people think, but it's not closed yet. That's why this moment matters more than any other. Because when history looks back at the early adopters of the digital age, it will remember one thing. They didn't wait for certainty, they acted with conviction. And conviction is what turns small holdings into legacies. The truth about owning 2,200 XRP is simple. It's not about timing the top or predicting the bottom. It's about recognizing destiny when it's still disguised as doubt. Hold your vision because the next chapter of finance is being written right now, and those who hold through the silence will live through the revolution.